I would rather have a class full of students who weren't exceptionally outlandishly once-in-a-generation talents, but were hardworking and consistent, because hardworking and consistent people make the most improvements over their time training.
Hi, and welcome back to the Drama Coach podcast. This series, we're focusing more on teens and young adults, especially those of you who are starting to take acting seriously and wondering what next steps might look like. Today's episode is a really useful one because we're talking about drama school, how to prepare, what to expect from auditions, how to choose material, and how to approach the process with a little more clarity and confidence. I'm joined by Adam Stadius, an acting coach and actor training specialist whose content through Get Into Drama School is centred around helping applicants understand and prepare for drama school auditions. Adam trained at leading drama schools and has spent years teaching, coaching and supporting students through the audition process. He's also a Meisner technique specialist, working through Northern Meisner Lab in Leeds, alongside his role at Leeds Conservatoire. What I really like about Adam's work is that it feels clear, practical and honest, which is exactly what young performers and parents need when the drama school process starts to feel mysterious, competitive and high pressure. So whether you're applying soon, thinking about applying in the future, or you're a parent trying to understand how best to support someone through it, this episode is here to help you feel more informed, more prepared, and hopefully a little calmer too. So let's get right into it.
Thank you so much for having it. What an intro. I really hope I can live up to it. I'll try.
I'm sure you will. I really like writing the intros, actually. I find those the most exciting bit to write for the podcast. So let's start, Adam, with your background.
Great. So, once again, thank you so much for having me. I'm from, you only hear about it if I talk about where I'm from. I'm from Durham in the northeast of England. When I start to talk about being from the northeast, I sound northeastern. And I fell into musical theatre was the place where I sort of found my home. It was, summer holidays, short rehearsals, like all of those sort of really fun projects from about the age of 10. I was really fortunate that I found a fantastic amateur society teen group, stage school, at the Gala Theatre in Durham, which really was the thing that made me go, this is where I want to spend my life and the thing that I really want to do. I'm an August baby. I'm August the 28th, so I was always the youngest in the school year. So I knew I was going to take some years out when I finished at college. I did a fantastic BTEC. I knew I was going to take some time out. In that time, I auditioned for a number of drama schools. I got into some, didn't get into some, got into some and didn't get offered scholarships. And this was at a time where a number were still privately funded and they weren't all student loan finance, for instance. And actually, in the end, I decided that for various reasons, some financial, some about me, myself, I wasn't going to go to do a 3-year drama school route. So actually, and I think this might be of interest, I did a 2-year foundation degree in Newcastle, a 1-year top-up in Buckinghamshire, and then I went to the Central School of Speech and Drama afterwards for my postgraduate program. I think that's useful just to say again that there's so many different routes that people can take to get to where they want to go. When I finished at Central, they knew, and I figured out that it was the right route, that I was going to be a teacher. I think I was that annoying student who was really obsessed with the rehearsal room and obsessed with technique. I think I just annoyed all the teachers wanting all of their time and to quiz them on stuff. And very quickly that became, like, for me, the obvious route. I love the rehearsal room far more than the stage. And as a teacher, I get to be in the rehearsal room the whole time. I moved back to the Northeast, got my teaching qualification, and then I worked with the Impulse Company, which is where I developed my love for and specialism in the Meisner technique. I had a teacher called Scott Williams who trained with Sanford Meisner. We can talk more about that later if that's interesting. And that became my sort of teaching area of specialism. After that, I went all around the place doing, like a lot of teachers do, freelancing between different institutions. I had a long stint teaching back in London when I was based at the Brit School, and then doing various different bits among there. Then I've moved up to Leeds. I worked at a place called SLP College for a while, where I was head of acting, then head of musical theatre. And now I'm at Leeds Conservatoire, where I've been since 2018, I want to say, where I launched their degree in musical theatre. And now I'm deputy head of the School of Drama. So I look after the sort of courses that we run, all of our undergraduate and postgrad, of which there are a lot. And yes, that whistle stop, that's sort of my job history, I guess.
That's fantastic. You've done so much. And I know you've got so much to offer the audience today. So thank you again for being here. This is great. Let's talk a little about your content online, because that's how I found you originally. What drew you to do that and be in that space and share those
Honestly,
things?
I was thinking, we audition a large amount of students every single year. And the amount of times that I go, I wish that someone could just tell you this one thing. It came from probably, I think, the biggest mistake that I see young people make, which is they craft their auditions to their taste, not where they are now, not where their skill set is now. Like, we've all got amazing taste, and sometimes when we're young, our experience and skill set don't quite match our taste, and we keep running into that. So I really started out just by going, here's a short tip on how you can improve how you would deliver a monologue. And seemingly lots of people want that. I also think that there's the thing about, I worked it out a while ago. Now, at the end of this year, it'll be about 8,500 auditions that I've been a part of, whether that's through people submitting their applications, reviewing self-tapes in the room. So I feel like I've got a number of different sort of tips or slants or easy to apply things that, look, if you just did this thing, you could feel really confident. And I think I really believe, like, the hundreds and thousands of actors that I've seen, loads of people are great or could be great or fantastic. And it's really fine margins. And if someone could neaten up those fine margins, they're going to give themselves the best opportunity to succeed.
Yes. Oh, this is so good. For listeners that are quite new to this world and might not, I feel like the actor kids will know, but maybe the parents, they might not know who exactly drama school is for. Can you kind of strip it back and tell us?
Great. So a drama school or a conservatoire, which is sometimes the language that people would hear, is a specialist training institution designed to train people to enter the professional performing arts industries. The drama schools run different kinds of programs. There are 3-year performance courses, which are the most popular, coveted. They are really intense, often like 30 to 40 hours a week of in the room with the teacher, practically doing the thing that you want to do. They involve large amount of classes, showcases at the end of it where you're introduced to the wider industry, getting all of the materials that you need to be a professional actor, and out you go. The main standout factor of performance courses at drama schools is that they are direct routes to equity membership and spotlight membership. Equity is the actors union, which is where you can, reserve your stage name, but more importantly have insurances, cover, contractual support. Spotlight, I described as the actors sort of Argos catalogue of how you search for actors. It used to be a book, now it's all online. And that's the thing, that if I am an agent representing a student, that I submit their spotlight profile to the casting director to pitch them for auditions. And you can only get memberships to those if you have worked professionally enough or trained at a recognized institution. And predominantly drama schools, nearly all are recognized institutions on those cases. They also do other things. So a number of drama schools do postgraduate programs. So 1 year for people who have either done a degree or maybe they're more mature applicants and they're looking for a 1-year training route. They sometimes can have those. And they also often have more niche specialist programs. So an MA in directing, or sometimes stagecraft, scenic design, scenic art, all of those sort of things. There is a big concentration of drama schools in London, but there's also a really wonderful sort of spreading of drama schools out now across the country. Back when I was auditioning for drama schools, and this is about in 2003, I want to say, I'm showing my age, there was a handful of schools, and it was a very small, elite, highly competitive thing. There are more schools now, and in some cases, that's a net positive. It means more opportunities. In some cases, it's not a positive because it means that it dilutes it for what we know is an oversaturated industry and a really difficult to get in industry. It means that there are more young potential artists going through that channel of going into drama school and then out into the big wide world, which, like I say, I think is great in so many ways. And in other ways, I think it's a challenge.
Thank you for giving such a balanced thoughts on that, because I think it is important to know that. And I've reached out to other practitioners and we've talked about that before, but it's really good to have that balanced opinion, I think. So thank you. And within that, and you're absolutely welcome to be biased if so, we haven't planned this topic, but do you think drama school is the only route into becoming a performer?
It's the most common route now. It's the most obvious. A bit like, how careers advisors would go, you should go to university. It's very much in the same way that if I'm a young person looking to go into acting, I would consider drama school the best route to go there. And do I think it's the best route to enter the industry? Potentially. And it depends what kind of industry that you want to go into. If you want to do theatre, I think drama school is a great base to give you technique and stagecraft and all the things that you need to be able to sustain what you do. I always say that drama school is a place that gives you technique, not talent. Yeah. Like talent might get you the job and might get you in the room and might, people will gravitate towards a talented actor. But your technique is your ability to be consistent across 8 shows a week, multiple takes on set, all that sort of stuff. And drama school is a great place to get that craft. Is it the only route? No. There are countless wonderful stories that you hear of really great actors who didn't go down a traditional route. They maybe went down having more private teachers or being discovered or have, I guess, sometimes developed in this modern age, developed a profile in some way and then moved into acting. Lots of people do that now, which I've got various different views on. But I don't think drama school is the only, but I think it's the most commonly known one now.
Thank you for that. And I think it does come down to the individual. Like you talked about talent and sustaining, and that brings me really nicely onto my next question, which is, how do students choose where to apply? There are so many more options now. There are so many different courses. Where do they begin to choose where to apply?
Okay, so some people will say to you, you should look at every drama school and go, where are their students going to and where are their students going off to work? I don't think that that's good advice. The reason why is some drama schools take upwards of 100 students per year. In that, they're bound to have 3 to 10 really great success stories every single year of people who go and maybe succeed. My honest bet, the advice that I don't think any other route can beat is go to open days, go to the drama school and get a sense of the environment. And I say that because, gosh, when I was auditioning, I'm probably not going to name the school, but there was one school that I was desperate to go to. And the reason for that was a large amount of my friends were there. They were having a great experience for it. It had a great reputation. It obviously had graduates who were working. Fabulous. I didn't go to an open day. I just knew I wanted to go to this school, have to get in. And I did not sleep the night before the audition. I was so hyped and nervous. But I went to the audition day and I hated it. And that environment felt like a place that was just not for me, which is fine. People need or want or will thrive in different kinds of environments. There are schools that are elite and they have that austere, like hard work. And there are schools that are really open, inclusive and supportive. I'm not saying one is at the expense of the other, but different environments work for different people. So really the best thing that you can do is go to the schools that you're interested in. You might find the schools that you're interested in by attending productions, seeing, which actors you gravitate to in the programs. You might find where they trained. You might go to UCAS fairs. You might look on Facebook groups. The Musical Theatre Appreciation Society is a really fantastic Facebook group. If you search in a school, there will be people asking for different experiences. And there are people applying and graduates of who will always chip in and give you an account of their training. So you can definitely find stuff, but nothing will beat going to the school itself and getting a sense of, for the young people, the vibe. You want to get a sense of which environment is a place where you feel that you can succeed in. And whether that's about being pushed loads or whether for me, the place I wanted to be was a place where I felt like I could make mistakes and be picked up and supported rather than feeling like if I make a mistake, I'm going to be told off or anything like that. I don't think many schools are that way inclined anymore, but I wanted to feel a place where I felt that I could be brave, because we need more brave actors and not every institution was set up for me to feel like I could be brave in that space.
Yeah. I love that. I really resonate. I've got a new younger drama group. So they're sort of year 6s upwards. They're sort of 11 years old. And we were just talking about that, about being brave and being bold and going for it and making mistake safely and not sort of being shamed by your peers or your teacher. And we talked about status as well. It was quite interesting. My daughter's also in the group and she said, well, how about we were early, set up a semicircle, Mum, and then you can stand there. I said, no, we're all sitting in the circle together. That's very important. She was like, oh, no, we chatted a little bit about that. So that felt nice. She's decided she wants to lead groups for even younger ones now, which is quite sweet. Yeah, I digress slightly, but I really feel what you're saying. That would resonate for me. And I think for the listeners as well, that might be something that they really gravitate to. But as you said, there are all those options. So I think what we're saying here is do your research, check those schools out in person and feel that vibe.
And also, as someone who works at a drama school, like every drama school will put their best foot forward. They will celebrate their graduates who've got amazing jobs. Every drama school will give you a kind of similar range of courses across classes. If you go to drama school, you can do classes in movement, dance, acting, voice, all of those things. So really it is about the environment that I think is really, really important.
Yeah, excellent. Oh, I like that very much. Thank you. You mentioned different types of courses. And, you could go as a director, etc. Just off the top of my research, things were popping up. There's acting, there's musical theatre, actor musicianship, foundation courses, diplomas, degrees, MAs, etc. How can a young performer work out what route they should be going towards?
I think there's a feeling and gut instinct, and also whether young performers kind of want it or not. Sometimes the drama schools will give you the best indication of that. So we see a number of people come in for a 3-year course, and I go, there's a technical gap between where they are, but they're really exciting and really interesting. So a foundation course would be great for them. We're starting a foundation course next year, which would be really great. We haven't had one, but other schools do. And typically what they do is at that point, they would recommend a foundation course for them. And so in some of the courses that you just mentioned, there's really good merits in doing a foundation course. If I want to do an actor musician type program, and maybe I'm a bedroom musician and I've learned and self-taught myself my guitar or whatever, but my acting is really strong, taking a year to bring my musicianship up so that when I do a 3-year program, I can hit the ground running is a really good idea. I also think there is a personal aspect to it now. Again, this is how my views changed over 10 years. Foundation courses used to be sort of poorly labeled as a cash cow for drama schools to be able to get more students in paying cash fees rather than student loans. But I really do think an additional year makes a huge difference into young people coming up. I also think part of that is we're still doing a bit of a catch up on, the teen generations who were impacted by COVID. And actually that extra year lets you experience maybe living away from home, what the environment is like, looking after myself, cooking, cleaning, the adulting part of it. And then it's a more gentler introduction to it. Because actually, you've got to make a personal choice if you're ready to not only do a drama school program, which is super intense, but also live away from home, maybe have a part-time job on top of it. The dishwasher is broken. I've got to fix that. I'm falling out with my housemate. Oh, and I've got Chekhov in the morning. That's a lot for an 18-year-old straight out of college to have to deal with. So I really do actually, I'm quite a strong advocate for foundation courses now, especially because a lot of foundation courses now are Cert HEs, for instance, and students can get funding for those programs. So I really would suggest that if people consider being offered foundation as a knock, it's really not. It's a thing that you've got something that someone wants to work with you. It's maybe a technical or an experience thing that year can just give you that gentle intro to.
That's so interesting and informative. Thank you. Let's get on to the exciting bit, the question that I hear loads online, in person. People come to me and others with this question. What are the schools looking for in these applicants, whether it be for a foundation or a 3-year, if they're auditioning on the self-tape, in the room, etc.?
I'm going to give you 9 different answers. And it's the first one is going to be quite annoyingly on the fence switch a little bit, which is it really depends. With every single individual student who comes in here in front, it's an equation that we're putting together between the talent that they bring in. So yes, talent is one thing. The technical skills and their sort of physical readiness for training. So, we are naturally going to assess, does that voice make a healthy sound that will not get damaged by singing 12 hours a week intensely, say, for instance. So where am I listing off? Talent, kind of anatomy, physiology, whether they're physically ready for the training. Attitude is a massive one now. And generally, again, the longer I've done this, the more I think it's the top defining factor. When we manage whole cohorts of students, I know this is a personal thing, but I would rather have a class full of students who weren't exceptionally outlandishly once in a generation talents, but were hardworking and consistent, because hardworking and consistent people make the most improvements over their time training, rather than someone who comes in fantastically talented, but doesn't have the right attitude or is distracted by life or lots of stuff going on. Actually, you really want someone who shows you that they don't just love it. I think my most popular TikTok video started with the notion of, if you want to go to drama school, don't be a fan. And that doesn't mean to say don't love it. You absolutely love it. People wouldn't be applying for these courses if they didn't love acting, musical theatre, or the arts. But you've got to be more than that. It's got to be the only thing that you think that you can do. And also you have to show that you know what you're getting yourself into, that you understand a bit about the business. We wouldn't expect people to know everything, but to really understand that it is a career step that they're taking, and it's not a progression from college or from A levels. It's something different, and it's an adult commitment. And so I think from an attitude perspective, that's what we're looking for, beyond the other aspects of creativity, which is, are they playful? Are they imaginative? Do they respond well to teaching and redirection in the room? We can talk more about that because I think that's a really key sort of part of the audition process. So there's a lot of that sort of stuff. So if I was to summarize it, yes, we're looking for talent, but we're also looking for potential. You know, if we think about musical theatre, because I think it's the most sort of binary skills based course, like if you are an excellent singer, an excellent dancer, an excellent actor, like you might not need the skill aspect of school. You might need the repetition and the technical grounding of stuff. But you're great. But actually, potential is I've got skill in one, and I've got or two, and I've got willingness in the other to throw myself out there and try something. Anecdotally, there was always the equation for musical theatre. If you're great at 2 out of 3 and have potential in the 3rd, there's a world in which you can work. And I actually think when we look at the musical theatre industry, I'm really not a fan of the term triple threat. 1, I find it threatening, but 2, no musical is exactly a 3rd singing, a 3rd dancing, a 3rd acting. And so therefore no musical theatre performer is a 3rd singer, a 3rd dancer, a 3rd actor. Like the skill set for Once is wildly different than the skill set for 42nd Street. You can make a really fantastic career if the equation of your sort of skills and attitude balance out.
That's great and really positive, because I hear the triple threat thrown around a lot. So I think that you've broken that down really nicely. Thank you. You mentioned business, and again, this wasn't on our questions, but it springs to mind now that often, again online, drama schools can be given a bad reputation for not preparing students enough for the business. I've got all these skills and I can last, I can look after myself, but flipping heck, they didn't teach me about, you've already mentioned Spotlight, but they didn't prepare me for the industry. And I'm trying on this podcast to get as many sort of industry insights as possible. Is that true? Has that changed? How do they get prepared?
It's tricky because, I can give you the best thing about what we do here at Leeds Conservatoire, which is, I think it's not necessarily everywhere.
But it's not everywhere necessarily, is it? Yeah.
I think one of the hardest things that what drama school can't prepare people for, because you're in a space every day doing the thing you love, there is no preparation that a drama school can do for then not being in a room every day doing the thing that you love and waiting for something. Like the only way that we could prepare students for that is if we just said, we're not going to teach you for a month and see how you feel. And no,
they wouldn't be happy with all that money they're paying about that, would they?
I think schools are trying to get better at doing, let's talk about self-employment, tax returns. Let's talk about maintaining your mental health when you're out in the world and you are not auditioning all the time, or when you don't get the gig, or all of that sort of stuff. So I think schools are trying their best to inform and educate, but what we can't give is the experience of being out in the world and potentially like being a bit unanchored, untethered. That, and I think that's the thing. I think some people really, get attached or feel secure in a place where they know their routine, they have their classes, they know the environment, and then that all changes. And I could tell students until I'm blue in the face that these things will happen, but until it actually happens to them, it's a whole different ball game.
Yeah, they can't feel it by being told it, can they? And I think that's why your cohort and everybody, I've been really big on connection and networking in a lovely way. Again, that word can get a bad rep, but networking and getting all those people around you so that you can go through these experiences together, support each other in those kind of up and down times. But you're totally right. It puts a new spin on my mind, because I hear that criticism quite a lot about not preparing. How can you prepare somebody to feel and experience that? You can't and you wouldn't. So that makes a lot of sense.
No, and don't get me wrong.
Clarifying that. That's good.
Again, people might feel all their different ways about, like, I wasn't prepared for this, this and this. And I think every year, speaking to my colleagues at different other schools, like every year schools are looking at their curriculum going, right, we need to add this thing, we need to add this thing. Vertical dramas are completely new things that are popping up all the time now. So that's something that we know we need to develop on. And it's the same when it comes to, classes that are like preparation for the profession and audition technique. Like every year, schools are reviewing what they do and changing it up. But I do think, and I think it's fair on both sides to go, we can't give the real world experience of something. Like we do multiple classes of audition technique, and our students feel really secure when they go and do auditions, but it doesn't replicate going and standing around a long queue outside Pineapple Dance Studios for a big open call. Like we can't replicate the exactness of it as much as we would love to.
It can't, yeah. And I think what you've said there as well was that teachers care. You know, most of the teachers that I know are really great and they care. And like you said, we're going and we're looking over what have we taught, what do we intend, you know, how can we make this better? And again, I think when you find the right place for you, you'll resonate, you know, you'll feel that, like you said, the vibe. So this sounds really promising and really full of care and experience. So I love this. And you mentioned auditions. Let's talk about audition material, if we may. What makes a good monologue or a good audition song? And again, I'm sure you're going to tell me it's personal, but kids are always asking me this, you know, what should I do for my audition? And I've got a heap of stuff I can give them, but I think it should come from them. But what do you think?
Okay, so I'll try and whistle stop through a few bits. Yes, it is personal because it's about pieces that suit that individual. I think the biggest mistake people make is they overthink trying to find pieces that look great on a page. So like I'll read monologue books or I'll read plays and I'll constantly try and find something that when I read it, it looks like a good monologue. Like the best thing that you can do is make a choice and then make that the right choice. Because if I okay, two different actors. One actor spends ages trying to find the right bit of material. They eventually have to settle on the monologue just because they do, and then they've got less time to prepare it for their first round self-tape or audition that's due next week. Versus an actor who really early on went, that looks solid, and we can talk about what makes solid material. That looks good enough, and I will work on that for weeks until it feels great. That actor is probably going to put their best foot forward in the audition room because they're not nervous about the piece. So I think the biggest thing is to not overthink finding material, because there is no such thing as on the page or on the score, the perfect monologue. It doesn't exist. Like you have to find a monologue and then you craft it to your own individual performance strengths and styles, and you make it really unique. Like that's what you do. And that then you put your best foot forward. You really do. Whereas if you spend ages just overthinking just the finding material, you're going to leave yourself stressed and rushed and panicking. And again, not sure of it right up until the time you do it. So my biggest advice always is going to be find a piece quick, or better still, well, it's not really better, but just pick up stuff and start working on material. Don't just spend reading stuff. You could read monologue books till you're blue in the face, but until you read it out loud, speak it out loud, show it to other people. I don't know why we get really self-conscious about showing material to other people, right? Show it to other people and go, how does this sound? Oh my gosh, right?
I still do.
I always say to our students, like you've got a room full of 36 imaginations and who can give you stuff, and they know some things, right? And so really what you want to do is try your piece and go, does this feel like me? Does this feel quite authentic? Does it suit? Do I sound rather natural on this text? Because I think sometimes what people do overthink is, to go back to one of your first questions, what are drama schools looking for? We can spend ages overthinking that. And it's really simple. With a monologue, especially a contemporary monologue, do I believe you saying those words? That's it. It doesn't have to be a hyper emotional piece. It doesn't have to be like the depths of despair. It has to be you saying words consistently and feeling like a human being who can hold a space as you say something. You know, I tend to say like avoid giving yourself more challenges than just that, right? You know, if someone comes in and does a flawless accent in an audition, that's cool, but it's probably never going to be the deciding factor. I've never seen the criteria being like, did they do a great accent? You know, it's really, again, have they made choices with their material? Are they consistent and believable? Can they hold a space? Yes. We're rarely talking about the technicalities of an accent, their overblown characterization. So pick pieces that sit close-ish to who you are and where you are, feel easy to deliver, because that's what you want. You want actors who can work with ease. That, I would say, they're the sort of the biggest things that you can crack on with when it comes to finding material. Just try loads of stuff quick and then make your decisions as quick as you can so you can really work to detail it and make it really good.
That reminds me of something a teacher told me a long time ago, a Lambda teacher actually, but drama before that. And we were talking about students together and, looking at the curriculum and whatever, and choosing pieces and helping them choose pieces. And she said, everyone wears it differently. And I thought that was beautiful. You're not going to wear the same dress as your friend or whatever in the same way. And so we started talking about monologues as a piece of clothing or a wardrobe, and how you wear it and wear it differently and make it your own.
Well, do you know what? Like, no one is as good at being you as you are. So you work and you work and you work till no one can act like you. And the way that you do that is by embracing the best of you and giving your take on a piece. Like, gosh, if everyone tried to give a great Shakespeare performance, every Shakespeare play would look the same because everyone would be pitching to the same target. Whereas actually, those plays have been revived countless times and they're really unique because we look for everyone's individual take on it. That's really what we're after. So oh my gosh, you see it loads in audition rooms, particularly if you're in a group size panel. When someone goes, I'm going to be doing Sophie's monologue from Boys by Ella Hickson, and you see like 3 people in the room who are doing the same monologue go like, oh no, that's my piece. But I really, I'm looking for your take on that monologue. Yes, I've seen that monologue loads of times, but you can do something really interesting with it. And the best thing that you can do interesting is not thinking weird and wacky and this sort of stuff. It's bringing the most of you that you can to it. Then it'll be different.
Yeah, where you resonate, where it fits. Yeah, this is such great advice. You mentioned Shakespeare monologues there, and often students are asked to do a contemporary and a classic piece. What are you looking for in those? It's hard, isn't it, whether you've got iambic pentameter or heightened language or something. How can a student make that when perhaps that language is so different to how they speak every day?
Yeah, if you've never experienced Shakespeare before, it's really hard if you feel sort of pushed into doing one. I think Shakespeare, for most teenagers who are listening to us, some will go, oh my gosh, I love it. But the majority will go, I did not enjoy learning it in school. Chances are because we did it in an English classroom and everyone read a line at a time and it was just difficult and it was really, not great. Shakespeare is something which is a good learning tool for young actors for a few reasons. One, I think you have to learn to love it. You have to learn to find your own enjoyment of it. And the best way that you can do that, honestly, is watch good Shakespeare. I think that's it. If you haven't, it's going to feel so alien to you. So if you watch it done well, I think there's a few things that you'll notice, which is even if I watch great actors doing Shakespeare as an audience member, I'm not following every word. I'm following what's going on in the scene. And the musicality of the text is kind of something that washes over me as an audience member. And yes, those rhythms and the poetry of it all are really fantastic and great stuff. But really what I'm following is the actor's choices around the material. There are some technicalities, but nowadays there's loads of guides on Shakespeare of what you can find. There's a whole course on YouTube that's like from the National Theatre in Cicely-Bury, like you can get for there. But I think the main thing for me, what I'm looking for with Shakespeare is your willingness to have a really good attempt at it. Again, in this world of trying to be really accessible to people, if someone is not natural with Shakespeare, I don't think that that's the determining factor of whether someone gets in or not. I think it can definitely expose where students have took shortcuts with the work. There aren't shortcuts with Shakespeare. Even if I was working at the RSC, I would still need to do the exercise of translating this and knowing, right, what does that word mean? What does that word mean? What does that word mean? How does this sentence flow? What are the exercises or the things that I can do that help me understand this text great? And so it's a really good indicator of how much work someone has put into their material. Because a contemporary monologue, this actor could have done loads of work on it and done a great job. This actor could be really natural with modern day text and get away with it, and they both could provide good work. Shakespeare, you have to do the work, so it's a really good indicator of, like, I guess, the work ethic of someone. Even if it's not perfect, again, at an audition, we're not looking for perfection. We're looking for willingness, I think. Willingness to play, willingness to try stuff, willingness to fail. And all of that, that's really someone who's exciting to work with.
Brilliant. I love that. I was like, I feel like I know what you're going to say here, and you did. So thank you. What should applicants focus on because often these days, a first round is a self-tape, which is very different to being in the room. What should they focus on for a self-tape? What matters technically? What doesn't? What helps these tapes?
Great. So I guess for young actors, what I would probably say is don't spend a fortune on getting the perfect professional self-tape setup. it's not expected. You can do a lot with a phone propped up, or even on, ideally, on a tripod is great for an angle. But again, if something's not perfect, we're not judging that. I'm not judging the quality of someone's self-tape setup. That's not a criteria on stuff. But I think the biggest risk for self-tapes is, again, overthinking and perfectionism. You have to remember that if I was auditioning live in person, you get one attempt and then you have to walk away from it and make your peace with what happened. With self-tapes, what we can do is we can really allow, I think, because we can stop somewhere in the back of our brain if something is not quite perfect, we just, no, that went wrong. And we can really drive ourselves insane with that. So the advice that I would give everyone is you want to give yourself 3 goes when nothing goes epically wrong, like you don't dry on your lines. Really, if you think that that's the only one, as long as you do three consistent runs, review those 3 and pick the one, to speak to everyone's inner critic, pick the one you dislike the least, the one that you're most like, okay, fine, go through that way around. And I would suggest then make your peace with that. Otherwise, you'll go absolutely crazy. But a few things as far as setups. You want, I'm trying to move my laptop, but I can't because it's on charge. You want a good level of your body in the shot. So, if you go too close, we don't get the chance to see how you express yourself. I typically think, again, with classical text and with musical theatre, you can go with a slightly wider shot. So like from the waist up is totally fine. For contemporary, like chest up as a sort of mid shot is absolutely fine as well. I would typically say you're far better off aiming it just off camera. Reason being is you don't want to, and again, it depends on your setup, but if you have yourself in the corner of your eye, oh my gosh, like that's just the worst. So don't remove all of those sort of barriers. If you can, a clean neutral background is always helpful. But again, the stakes aren't as high at this point comparatively to professional actors. We understand that people applying for drama schools aren't professional actors. That's a whole reason you're applying for it. So I think, if I think of sort of frequent errors, you want to get your camera about sort of head height for where you are, not on your laptop tilted up, looking at you up at the ceiling. When you submit your tape, oh my gosh, it's like some of those, it's more those little basic sort of things. When some people submit files and they're tilted the wrong way and we're having to sort of crane ourselves upside down. There's like little things like that. But honestly, I think the main thing is more about how you mentally approach self-tapes comparatively to the sort of the technicalities of it. I think you can give yourself the best chance to succeed if you can have a friend off camera that you can direct it to. Just because you get that liveness of feeling like a monologue is a real conversation. And that is really what it should feel like, rather than I'm talking to a wall or a grand declaration. Acting is a conversation, and having someone to talk to just gives you that little bit of feedback that you can work off. I want to go back on something when you asked about material to pick just before as well, just because it just sprung into my mind. The best material that actors can pick are if I go for monologues specifically, are monologues that are clearly directed to someone found within the body of a scene. I say my acting teacher, I've had many, but sort of my all-time biggest influence of an acting teacher, Scott Williams, he used to call certain monologues kitten monologues. And you'll know the type, right? You've seen the plays where it's like, there's a scene and there's a big argument, and then it's like spotlight downstage with Adam. And it's like, when I was 6, I had a cat, and that cat taught me everything there was to know about this and that. And I'm reminiscing about like that sort of stuff, because it doesn't. Great. And actually
for lots a GCSE maybe.
Yeah, there's a number of there's a number of those that appear in like Lambda pieces or in monologue books, but they're not active. They're not me trying to do something to someone to communicate something that's really important to me. And so I think they're always the best kind of ones. Also, the reason why they're great is there's a clear objective that, even if you don't know what objectives are, the people assessing you do, so they can help you on the day when they're redirecting you to go about, try it like this, try it like this. When someone brings a monologue that's just reminiscing for the sake of reminiscing, there's very little a panelist can offer without going something that's really random. So you will get a better quality redirection with a better quality monologue where you're directly talking to someone and trying to change them.
I'm glad you brought up redirects, because that's my next point. So I must remember not to forget the one in between. But this could be, some of the students, this could be the first time they've been redirected in an audition situation potentially. What are the panel looking for if they give you a direction?
If you are attending something in person, I can guarantee that you will be redirected at some point. A redirect is basically the panel trying to assess if you are flexible and to get an indication of beyond how well you can prepare material, what you are like to work with and your openness and willingness to change. I've seen redirections that are subtle and nuanced and more little shifts in a character's perspective versus some that are, let's take it wildly out of context, or let's try it in this. So in each of those, it's assessing your ability to change, whether it's about playfulness or just if you can respond to that sort of stuff. And I think it's a hugely important part of a recall because, again, if you can prepare material, that's great, but you are always going to be working in response to the actors around you or a director on a project. And you always need to be open to new ideas. And sometimes I think young actors can do themselves a disservice in the way that they practice and prepare for that. If you only practice your monologue at home alone to a blank wall, and you kind of work to craft your favorite or most perfect version of that monologue, you're really going to lock in your acting choices to a point that it's really difficult to unpick them. Yeah. Sometimes where we see that is maybe actors, they start to, they begin a bit different, but they drift back into their original performance because it's so ingrained in them. And so really, I think some advice is in terms of how you practice with redirection are practicing flexibility. Practice your material in different settings and situations. Practice it across the table to a friend in a coffee shop. Practice it to a partner, a friend, someone in your family. Do it in different places, in different settings. Sit in the corner on the floor in your room. How does that feel? Try it lying down. How does that feel? Like all of these different things, because it feels like silly practice, but actually, one, you might find different random choices that work. But two, you're training yourself to not expect the same performance every single time, and that you're leaving yourself open to discovering something new in each and every moment. That way, when someone asks you to do it differently, it's not scary because you're just used to it. You haven't got your dream version of this monologue that you've locked in. When it then comes to working with direction on the day, I think my few tips are, as you're listening, breathe. Like just breathe and just take the time to sort of process it. You can ask a question. Sometimes people just run into it and like, bless them, they do something completely different than what we or our panelists have sort of asked for. That's just because they're in such a panic and they're so on the spot and our brains are going so fast in the moment that we just go, do it different, do it
eager
louder.
to please. Yeah.
So, breathe, listen. You can ask a question and then give yourself just a moment to just think through for a second and make your start different. If you make sure that the first line is delivered in a different way, then you might set off on the track to discover something new. So just make sure that your first line has the most flexibility.
Really exciting. And I came up with another idea too. You may or may not agree with this, but you were saying about different places, different people for rehearsal. Then I thought, well, what about different emotions? If you've had a really bad day and you're really tired, or you're really excited about something, or someone's just annoyed you, that might be a good opportunity to go and try your monologue with that in you.
No, I mean, I think that's really great advice, and advice that I would give, pro actors, which is, right, today I've got a cold. If I was going to do my monologue today, I would just allow that character to have a cold and see what difference that feels. What that slightly lower energy, slightly gravelier voice sort of version of it, because that's new and different and surprising. You give yourself the opportunities to go, okay, today I'm really angry. What does it feel like to do it when I'm feeling something, when I'm feeling all this sort of stuff? So yeah, absolutely. You should, a character can be anything. They can feel all sorts of stuff. There isn't a sort of binary right emotion. And sometimes if we try and play for emotion, we will end up getting locked into just what a generalized idea of like anger looks like, or this. And actually we're all an epic sort of mix of stuff. So, try it in all different places, in all different settings. And yes, like you said, when you're in a different sort of emotional place too, see what those different versions of it are like.
And I like this podcast to sort of spread positivity and celebrating the wins. And that way, if you have had a bad day, you can go, well, at least it's useful for my monologue or for my acting. And that everything you experience can have a place.
One of my tips that I was coaching someone a while ago. They were auditioning for RADA and they got in, yay. But they were talking about how to deal with nerves on the day. And my advice was be nervous.
Great.
Your character can be nervous. If you look at the text, probably the majority of text, every character has something to lose. And I can actually allow my nerves to inform that choice. Like if I'm nervous on the day or really excited or whatever, like I'm really feeling something right now. I'm really feeling nerves. And sometimes as actors, we do this weird thing where we go, try and breathe out this truthful, honest emotion that we're feeling to replace it with something else. Whereas actually, you might find that if you just allowed yourself to breathe in that experience and go, where can I find this in the text? I talk a lot about emotional preparation. I mean, that's the act of creating a feeling inside yourself. Like, I have a feeling right now, and I can use this, and I can let it come through the text and discover that.
That's really beautiful. I think you're the first person who's said that. We hear a lot of controlling your nerves and breathing, and I think that's wonderful. And where can you tap that nervous, wherever nerves feels for you, how do you make that part of your character? That is
cool.
Golden advice. I really like that, Adam. Thank you. Let's think a bit then to also help with nerves, because we know when students care, they are almost definitely going to feel nervous going into this in-person audition. Could you just sketch out for them, because I think there's power in feeling like you know what you're going to get, what an audition sort of recall day might look like?
Yeah, I'm going to try and go broadly beyond what we do, for instance. But as far as standard things, the things that you'd expect to happen,
sure.
You will arrive at the institution. Top tip, arrive half an hour early, just so you're not stressed about travel. You'll arrive at the institution, you will sign in. You may be given a number, a name badge, all of these sort of things. And you'll then be placed in a room where you get the chance to meet other applicants and take that opportunity to do that. In that room with you will be, yes, hopefully future actors, but also potentially future producers, directors, makers, all of this sort of stuff. And your career, it hinges on your skill and your network. So you'll get the chance to meet people. And I think you should really take that opportunity. I always say to people, the job on an audition day is to be interested, not interesting. We have a pressure to feel like we've got to be interesting. And you don't have to be interesting. You have to be truthful as an actor. Otherwise, it's a different pressure. But you can be interested in other people around you, and you can really make good connections with that.
This episode is supported by Scene Tribe, a new industry network for creatives built around your credits, your collaborations, and the work that you've actually done. If you're ready to be found by the right people, head to scenetribe.com. Right, back to the episode.
Chances are you will do some levels of, first there'll be an introduction, a little bit of a welcome talk, here's what to expect. And you will then be potentially put into groups, and you will do some levels of group activities. They could be things like warm-up exercises, games, a dance class on the musical theatre course, say, for instance. But you will likely do some group workshop, because again, at that point, what the panel is looking for is how you work with others. They want to get that opportunity, that instinct to go, what are you like in a class environment? Because you're doing monologues, but your whole drama school experience will be working with other people. So we want to see how you respond in that way. Chances are you will then do some level of individual demonstration, whether that's singing songs, doing a monologue, doing a Shakespeare. You will present that material. You will be asked questions on your material. So again, top tip, read the play. Make sure you can really fully talk about your character, the given circumstances, what's going on in that scene. And then you'll be redirected. Then probably the other part that you'll experience is some form of interview with a member of staff. At that point,
great, because that was the next thing I wanted to know all about. I think this is where potentially they're less prepared or worried.
Honestly, I think you're exactly right. I think it can feel like the most nervy bit, because it's like, I don't have a character to hide behind or a teacher telling me what to do. It's you being asked direct questions, and you have to think on the spot and know what to do. For me, questions and interviews are the part where I get to know your aims, because I think sometimes there's an equation between, for a drama school making decisions, is to go, okay, tell me where you think you're at. So you think you're here. We've looked at your work over the course of the day, and we think you're in this place. You say that your aims are this place. And so then we have to go, great, over 3 years or 1 year, do we think collectively that we can get you there? So I think we're looking for that. We're looking for how they see themselves, where they want to get towards, but also it's an opportunity to, like I said sort of earlier on, to really assess their understanding of the commitment that they're making to themselves by entering into drama school, and their opportunity to demonstrate that mentally that they're ready for it. If I was going into the brass tacks of it, and this might be quite controversial, drama schools, it is a business. Drama schools need students. They need student fees, because that pays for buildings and teachers and all this sort of stuff. Every student that I'm interviewing is 1 year of tuition fees. From the business point of view, I want to feel confident that they're going to be consistent over 3 years and not leave, because that's damaging to our business in that way if they do.
But I think it's also not controversial because it's damaging to them. They probably don't want to. People would potentially come out of this for all sorts of reasons. So I'm not saying that you shouldn't. But yes, no one really intends to go into something that they think they're going to, in inverted commas, fail at. So I think, although you say, yes, it's a business and maybe that's controversial, I think it's also really fair on the students. That arc that you showed of sort of where they are, where they could be, and can we facilitate getting them there? I think that's also a lovely point.
We're making an investment in them and they're making an investment in us. And it's really, drama school is as much a partnership as the relationship between the agent and an actor. We're both saying at the point when we accept someone, we believe in if you work really hard over 3 years, that you might stand a chance of having a really great career in the arts. But we need the confidence that you are going to arrive and be that consistent person. So it's that opportunity to really go, okay, they really understand what they're getting into. I'm quite keen when I ask questions to understand where students feel or recognize the things that they aren't yet good at, or what they think they might find hard, and what their strategies would be to overcome that. So there are things to be able to think about as well. And actually, sometimes interview preparation, I think, for young people always says about put your best foot forward, answer as if you're the best person in the world and all this sort of stuff. And actually, I'm thinking of an interview from someone this year who was really honest and open about what they don't know and what they can't do. And that, for me, that was the best interview that we ran this year. The reason being is I really believed them. I really believed in them, that they knew what they needed to work on and that they were willing to. That was great, because otherwise sometimes it's like, tell me what, we run off into CV land. I've done this with my Amdram group and this, and, tell me how you're going to balance being all that busy. Well, I'm doing my A-levels. Yes, obviously, so is everyone. But it's actually the ability to be reflective and to really show that they know themselves and what they can and can't do and where their strengths are and what they want to improve on. That honesty is the best thing that someone can bring to that interview situation.
That's a great trait in an actor, isn't it? To know yourself. So I think if you're going in an interview knowing yourself, flaws and weaknesses as well, don't lead with that, but to bring all of that in, and just as you were saying, be yourself or a version of yourself in the monologue, you're asking for the same thing here.
Oh, look, if someone said to me, I don't know what question this would be, but I'll be like, tell me about what inspires you. If someone was like, I hate Shakespeare, I've never read a Shakespeare play before in my life, or this sort of stuff, there's a part of me that would respect that. And I'd go, okay, cool, fine. But you're going to start, right? Yes, of course. And, that's, there's being honest and open, and there's being like a block. You don't want to be that person. But I think you can be honest about your experience and honest about what you haven't experienced too. You can really frame shortcomings as opportunities. That's the thing. If you can frame that as an opportunity, that's great. If you frame it as just, then that's the challenge.
Yeah, no, I don't think a conservatoire training would be for you if you were just, I would imagine.
Okay.
But there might be some, I think the only thing that we haven't talked about yet is going a little deeper into the sort of truth, listening and Meisner technique, because I know that's your bag. Would you like to tell the listeners a little bit more about that? I mean, they might not have heard of Meisner. What is it in simple terms?
I guess for your listeners and for this sort of episode, I think talking about Meisner is a sense of going, this is something you might do at drama school. So drama school will expose you to different crafts and techniques around acting, rather than just learn a script and do it and ways to break it down. You will study different practitioners. Not every school does Meisner, not every school does Uta Hagen, not every school does Strasberg, all of this sort of stuff. The Meisner technique is my biggest passion, because I think it's the best thing that works on the actor's innate fundamental sense of themselves and their ability to listen and be present. Sanford Meisner was a guy who was a teacher in the United States of America. He taught for 60 years, refining a practice that was designed to fix two epic problems for actors. One, that we don't listen, and two, that we're self-conscious. So by we don't listen, Lisa, what I mean is you and I are doing a scene together. You've prepared really well. I've prepared really well. I've done my text work. You've done your text work, but we're not having the same conversation. And I'm sure we've seen this. And we end up going like, if I do well and you do well, it'll be great. And chances are it has that disconnect. By we're self-conscious, I mean, we all have this inner critic, this voice in the back of our head, which goes, this is terrible. This isn't interesting. You haven't moved your arm in ages. Interesting actors move their arms. Oh my gosh, why did you move your arm like that? You're a terrible actor. Like we have all of that sort of part. So the Meisner technique developed a series of exercises which were designed to place my attention fully on the person in front of me and in my scene partner, which allows me to be able to work and respond. And a lot of Meisner's work and fundamentals are that, comparatively to some approaches, it's the best resource that I have as an actor, going back to what we talked about monologues, is me. There's the information I find in the text, and I will enrich it by bringing myself to the work rather than becoming someone else. Because like without magic, I'm not capable of having someone else's thoughts and feelings, or being someone else. So actually it's a sense of going, it's a bit like the Stanislavski and Magic If. What would happen if I was in that situation? Meisner is based on actually, yes, putting myself in the situation of the character and understanding that in myself, I've got tens of 20, 30 different characters already. I play different roles in my life all the time. Right now, I'm playing the role, I guess, of a podcast guest or a kind of teacher, but I'm not like this at home with my partner and kids.
Yeah.
Right?
I
So
say
I'm always
this a
different.
lot. Yeah.
So it's Meisner does that work. Yeah. I'm joking, sorry.
Bless you. And I haven't even thanked you for still coming on when you're full of a cold and not, feeling your best self.
We do it for the art,
and
Lisa.
giving all this great advice. I just want to... Of course we do. Well, that's why I'm doing the podcast, because, yes, I feel passionate about the arts and I want to help those that also do. And I think the only ones we haven't really spoken to so much in this, because I know we have a lot of parents listening, is the parents. I know they can get torn between pressure and support. How can they support these young people without adding extra pressure? What does that look like? What are things that they could do?
So I think the main reassuring thing to say to parents is that the art is a really thriving industry. You can find statistics. So I think parents often worry about students or their young people wanting to go down the arts because it doesn't feel like a secure job. It's a really thriving industry. It's like 150 billion to the UK economy. So like there is a boom there. Is it hard to be an actor? Yes. Is it hard to make a living as an actor? Yes. Can I broaden out my opinions to go, what could I do as well as being an actor that allows me to feel artistic? Yes. So I certainly think you should encourage your young person to follow their dreams and take their shot. I do feel that. I feel that parents don't feel able to, I don't know, do the "are you sure?" question. So they want to be, I think that's not helpful at the first hurdle when they're trying to follow their dream, and understanding maybe that if your young person doesn't succeed at the first attempt, that it's a no. I think sometimes a lot of parents sometimes rush to, well, you didn't get in this time, so what else are you going to do? Let's look at these other courses. What's next? There are loads of different ways to be an actor, to be an artist. And to really, I think if parents can look at the art as a whole, rather than just the pressure of get into drama school the first time and be a success, I think actually it's not putting the pressure on that young person at that point. I'm sure it was one of your guests at one point, like actors always talk about families going like, okay, so what are you in? What are you doing now? Are you going to think about giving it up? And I think you can take that first approach back to at when people are applying. And I think potentially as parents, stepping back a little bit and allowing them the space to try stuff, rehearse stuff. I would always, support them and say, do you want to run lines with me? Do you want to run your pieces? All of this sort of stuff. I think you can help them prepare for interviews. The biggest thing that parents can do to help their young people, and I don't even think this is drama school exclusive now, is teach them the life skills that mean that when they go to drama school, they're not having to learn life skills at the same time as do a really intensive program.
That's great. Now, that is what I'm going to take from this episode, because my workload's been picking up recently, and I've been saying to my kids who are currently 11 and 14, God, think about that. And I'm saying, come on, just it might be stuff around the house, learn the washing machine, the dishwasher. And I think, I'm a terrible parent. I went, no, I'm not. They're going to need these things. They're going to be off to college before you know it. And learning those things for the first time, you're so right. When you're away from home, you've got this all day, every day in drama school, grueling physically, mentally. You don't want to be learning that for the first time. Absolutely not. So thank you. And I'm going to take your advice and make sure I act on it.
No, but it's absolutely true. I think, especially to do with things like, again, this might be a touchy subject for some, but things like food and nutrition, like just knowing how to fuel yourself the right way, how to manage a budget so you don't burn through your student loan and need to find a part-time job really quick that puts pressures on, like all of those sort of things. So I think really it's about the sort of life preparation is probably the best thing that parents can do to help people. And also, I see some really fantastic parents who come to like open days and do it with them, go on the journey with them, really support them. You can go to the open days and get a sense of the environment too, because, you're sending your child to that place and you want to know that it's the best possible environment too.
And it gives you a talking point, doesn't it? If you've both felt that and if you feel differently about it, it gives you can talk about it and you can make your decisions together. That sounds really beautiful. Thank you. Is there anything you wish came up in... Oh, no, there is something I wish came up, but I feel like you've touched upon it. The financials and the practicality around all of this. We both know training can be really expensive. How should families feel kind of realistic about fees, funding, living costs we mentioned, and application costs? Is there any kind of big piece of advice that they can take when it comes to the financial realities?
Morally, ethically, there's a few sort of things, but like drama training as an actor is really expensive. It is. And I think sometimes parents don't necessarily understand why to the same degree, but, we charge within the student loan fee cap. So, what was $9,250, it's gone up that little bit. And we're stretching that to do 30 hours a week, sometimes with 2 teachers in the room, someone playing, someone teaching, all of that sort of stuff. Whereas other universities are charging that same amount to do 10 hours a week in a lecture room. So drama schools are really strict. To afford that level of training, it is expensive. And there are some schools that stay within the student loan fee cap. There are some schools that exceed it astronomically. And do I think they should? That's a really tricky question. And I think that's a really down to the individual, person going to that school and their family situation. I guess my biggest thing that I would say is to parents and people applying is do your research first and let that inform the reasons why you apply for things. What breaks my heart, especially on TikTok, which I'm still relatively new to, I'm getting used to it, is seeing loads of young people go, I've got into my dream school, now help me get there financially. And I think that's what a devastating pressure that is to need to be in that position. So I think, potentially going back to advice for parents is to maybe sit down with your young person before they embark on that auditions and applications sense and have a really sensible, realistic conversation about what you can and can't afford and support. And it's really sad if you can't, but there are schools that don't charge over and above. So if you know who they are, you can then really tailor your applications. But it's a real shame when money comes into the equation. It absolutely is. But I think it's more devastating when someone sets their heart on applying for a school that they actually could never afford without crowdfunding. And that's such a really risky position to be in. And you see students then, I'm coming to the end of my second year and I can't afford my third year, help me. And it's devastating. So I think having those conversations really early on is really important.
That's excellent advice. Thank you. So is there something that you wish, before we go into our quick fires and sort of shake it off a bit, is there something that you wish had come up?
I mean, honestly, I think we've covered everything. Otherwise, we could be here for like 9 hours if we wanted. Yes. So I think there's a broad thing. I think we talked about applications. Probably the only other thing that we haven't talked about, but I don't know how snazzy it is, but it's things like personal statements on applications. But sometimes, again, personal statements, it's the same advice that I give to interviews. It's quality, not quantity. Sometimes the mistake that people make in personal statements is listing every single Amdram credit they've ever had. I did this, I did this, I did this. And they sort of list off all of the things that they did. Whereas actually, the better thing that someone can do, and again, this is interview advice, is if you can give me one example of one thing that you did, something you discovered in the process of doing it, and something you learned from that, you've shown me that you are taking acting outside of your school or college. You've shown me that you can observe and overcome challenges and that you can reflect on those and make plans for the future. So it's always quality, not quantity.
Brilliant. And it's that, like you say, justifying and explaining and showing, that's so much more valuable than a list. Even though you've done loads, and I get how the students would want to show how much they've done, but it's not valuable. Like you said, you can show it through one thing and go into the depth there. That is golden. Thank you. All right, I've got 4 quick fire questions for you, Adam, if you're up for it. So just whatever pops to your head. One thing applicants overthink.
Picking their pieces.
Great, perfect. One thing applicants
interviews
often under-prepare? Classical or contemporary?
I love playing with a contemporary monologue, but I love classical work.
The chicken answer. I would have done exactly the same thing. A quality that makes a performer. Oh, beautiful. Thank you so much.
I think when an actor allows their piece to allow them to share part of themselves through the work that they do, that changes the room. So absolutely is vulnerability.
I know I've thought of something extra. You talked about self-tapes. And what I noticed in your chat about self-tapes is they are so different to the type of self-tapes that I advise. I've got lots of young performers that I help, and they might be self-taping for commercials via their agent and TV work, and they come in quite close. And I think the big difference here, so if students have been listening to my podcasts and my self-tape advice, that's been very tailored towards those actors. And I want them to make sure that they've listened to what you said about having that body in, because there might be gestures and we might need to see a little bit more. I think you said torso up for an acting piece. So it's actually just a little wider than all the things that I've advised so far. Interesting and important.
Self-tapes for industry is one set thing. Self-tape for drama school, I want to say to people, like, take the pressure off. We want to be able to see you and what you do. So there's definite things where drama school auditions are not real auditions. They're something else. But yes, I certainly think for commercial screenshots, you might choose to have something that's a lot more, orchestrated, I would say.
I will ask where people can find you, Adam, because you have clearly got so much to give.
Fabulous. So if you are keen to get advice on applying for drama schools, you can find me on TikTok. If you just search for Get Into Drama Schools, I post sort of semi-regular tips on my TikTok. I also have an online school community, which the link is in my bio. You can join. It's super cheap and affordable. We do regular calls and monthly performance classes for paying members. But the whole point of that was to be really affordable for people. If you are interested in the Meisner technique more, you can find me on Instagram at the Northern Meisner Lab. We're starting classes in Leeds in the north of England over the summer, which I'm really, really excited for. And yeah, that's it.
Perfect. I'll link all of that in the show notes so it's nice and easy to find. Thank you so much, Adam, for being on today and everything
absolute
that
pleasure.
You shared. It's been wonderful. I think that was such a useful conversation, especially for anyone who's starting to think about drama school, preparing for auditions, or supporting a young performer through that process. What I really hope listeners take away from this episode is that drama school auditions are not about being perfect. They're about preparation, openness, curiosity, and showing who you are as a performer. And if you're a parent listening, I hope it's helped you take some of the mystery out of the process too. There's a lot you can do to support your young performer, but you don't have to have all the answers, and one audition season does not define their entire future. Thank you so much for listening to the Drama Coach podcast. If this episode was useful, please do follow the podcast. Share it with a young performer or a parent who might need to hear it. And come and find me at The Drama Coach on TikTok, Instagram, or YouTube for acting tips, honest advice, conversations around training and the industry. Thanks again for listening, and I hope to see you in the next episode.